Continuing on the draft prep for the Indiana Pacers with a guy that a lot of people love and a lot of people don't love, Mr. Chet Holmgren, the center from
I
Gonzaga,
thought
for
you were going to say
absolutely
me.
we will dive all in today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers as always. My name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and the West Side Community News. And today, talking about the Pacers is actually talking about college basketball because we are continuing on the profiling of draft prospects with none other than Mr. Polarizing Skinny Slender Man himself. I don't think he's polarizing at all. I think he's the best player in this draft. Chet Holmgren, the center from Gonzaga, joining me to do that. Former all-over-the-place scout extraordinaire, now retired off into the sunset at least a little bit. Back to talk about Chet Holmgren, Ben Pfeifer. Ben, how's it going, man?
Good. I'm doing well. This is very much a throwback.
It is.
We worked together many years ago. I said like 3 or 4. It feels like forever ago. I thought you were like in the intro. I thought you were saying like many like him, many don't. I thought you were talking about me.
No.
I'm like depending on what fan base you support, but
I know Ben Pfeifer is a Chet Holmgren fan. Yes, Ben used to write at the same website as me when I was editing, and he would put like 400 clips in an article, so I'd have to watch them all and make sure they were the right ones, which was always good, though, because that means I know he did his homework about it, and we know he's done his homework about Chet Holmgren, who we're talking about today. Chet Holmgren, to me, is such an interesting prospect. I know everybody thinks that, but just the combination of skills and non-skills he has is so unlike anything I've ever seen in my years of taking this seriously and actually watching full games of these dudes. And he is fascinating to watch. So you, I believe, have him number 1. Please give everybody listening a high-level pitch overview of why Chet Holmgren is the best prospect in this draft.
I actually have him like a very close 2, but I think like number 1 is like perfectly reasonable. And I think the distance between Paolo, who I have number 1, and Chet is basically a personal preference thing. So Chet is like a real defensive anchor potential with more offensive utility than a lot of the defensive anchor prospects that we get. I think there are concerns on both ends. Definitely more concerns with the offense, but the defense and specifically the rim protection and the potential pick and roll defense could be very special. And when you have a guy who's been this dominant of a defender for this long at a young age with real blossoming offensive skill, that is generally someone you are comfortable taking in, the top 2, so or number 1 for some teams.
The defense is the thing that makes him so insane to me because he switches out on the perimeter like it's absolutely nothing. And Gonzaga switches a lot. And so he's guarding guards all the time, no problem, keeping with guys on drives. And then what'll happen sometimes is he'll scurry back to his man, and then someone else on Gonzaga gets beat, and he recovers all the way to the basket and shuts down the drive anyway, even though it wasn't his man or his help. I watched a lot of games today where he did that more than once, and he just can reach everything. His arms are so long. His anticipation skills are perfect. And that sort of weak side rotation team stuff, pick and roll defense stuff always translates, right? Like he will be good in that way to me. He might struggle with some stronger dudes at first, and the perimeter players will be faster in the NBA. But to me, when I watch him on defense, it's like it's hard for me to find something that I'm like, oh, wow. Unless he's defending post-ups like 70 times a game, it's hard for me to envision a scenario where he's just like not even a positive defender pretty quick, maybe not as a rookie, but pretty quickly in the NBA.
Yeah, the strength post defense stuff is always overblown as a weakness.
Yes.
Like, of course he's not going to guard Embiid or Jokic to the post. First of all, like nobody does, especially not rookies, and that isn't really a necessary thing in today's NBA on a game to game 82 game basis. Like you said, he's going to be amazing right away. I think the area where he's probably going to struggle most immediately is on teams where they force him to guard away from the ball, off the ball. To guard away from the paint off the ball, excuse me. Just because, like, I think the biggest issue with his strength currently comes with his, like, screen navigation and ability to, like, get through tight spaces. So if you're having a team where Chet has to, like, guard a spacey 4, who they're going to, like, run off of a screen or, make him get through a pin down or something, or make him run through screens in the paint, he's probably going to struggle just because he has really high and stiff hip, high hips and like a stiff lower torso and like the core strength, isn't great for that. But I don't see that as a huge long-term concern because one, like you're not drafting your evolutionary rim protector to guard screens off shooters. And I think these are very correctable as he polishes up his footwork and improves his core and lower body strength. Like these are incremental strength, progresses that he can make that will have big dividends. Like he doesn't need to get jacked to like be a high impact defender. He just never is going to need to do that because, like you said, his recovery tools are amazing. He's able to cover so much area of the paint. That's really his special skill to me on defense is like the short area paint coverage. Like no matter where he is, so often in Gonzaga, whether it's like in pick and roll or like a scramble situation or like just help, we'll like park him in the middle of the paint, like right above the circle, and just he covers everything. Like he covers every option with his length, his flexibility and ability to like rotate 90 to 180 degrees in the air to contest shots without fouling. Like you mentioned, like the anticipation is pristine. The timing, his hand placement and verticality, all that stuff is just like super abnormal for a guy his age. Like even like someone like Evan Mobley last year, who was like another generational defensive prospect, had little technique and placement issues that Chet just doesn't have, and like has not had since he was like 15 years old. Like it is really fascinating to watch like a guy this young with just this polished and seasoned technique as a rim protector, and also like obvious areas to grow as well, which is really scary for teams that don't have Chet.
Yeah, I think he'll be a better interior defender around the basket than Mobley, but not as good on the perimeter. Mobley's perimeter defense is gross. It's insane how good he is as a teenager at defending on the perimeter. For Pacers fans, I'm going to bring up some numbers here, Ben. Miles Turner at Texas, long regarded as a very strong defensive prospect out of Texas, obviously has been top 10 level of impact defender in the NBA, led the league in blocks more than once. 12.3 block percentage, 4.3 fouls per 40 minutes. Chet Holmgren has a higher block rate than that and less fouls per 40 because his anticipation skills are that good.
Yeah, he never fouls.
Never fouls.
He's like it. Like you think a guy that skinny like would be kind of a foul magnet because guys can just push him off his spot. And while that's kind of true, like he just doesn't. He doesn't overcommit. Like he doesn't. He doesn't commit hard to stronger guys. He doesn't like flail into guys.
I don't think he's ever getting like bullied, if that makes sense. Like he's knocked off his spot for sure. And we'll talk next segment when we talk about weaknesses. We will talk about his size. Don't you worry. And I'm going to be a big jerk to people who don't actually watch Gonzaga and just go, "Oh, he's skinny." But yeah, it's not like a strength necessarily, but I don't think it's as big a weakness as people say. Yeah. We talked about defense the whole time. Sure. He does in fact play offense as well. So Chet Holmgren, I watched 3 full games today alone, but I've watched more than that with Chet so far. Something that Chet does more than any center prospect maybe I've ever evaluated is he will get a block and then dribble himself and then shoot a 3. Like no one else touches the ball. I'm like, wait, you're the 5. Like you don't even shoot that much every game. He shoots like maybe 10 times a game. And I think every game I've watched, he's done that once or twice. I'm like, what?
That's kind of become his trademark highlight play this year, which is very cool.
Yeah, killer from 3, 39%, not a ton of attempts, only took 100, but free throw percentage suggests he'll be at least an okay shooter in the NBA. Really good spin move in the lane, good offhand handling, at least for his first dribble with his left hand, to get past guys. So he's not like an awesome space creator, but good finisher around the basket. Obviously shot insanely well and in general. 74% on 2-pointers.
It's ridiculous. It was like 80%. He was like 80% at the rim or something. Like
I don't have a CBB analytics page up. I'll pull it up. But
it was 84% at the rim.
Yeah, and it's not like he was a dunk machine either.
Unbelievable. Like
so, he definitely is not like a perfect offensive prospect. Definitely limited, but his efficiency and his ability to get up shots when he is open is really strong.
Yeah, like I think some people, probably not as much anymore, but especially when he was in high school, kind of cast him as like a potential like next Durant creator type, which is not fair to him, but
never.
Yeah, he really has like plus offensive skill. The finishing is like easily his best offensive skill. He is such a gifted finisher, and people are like, oh, he's skinny, he's gonna get pushed off his spot. Yeah, like whatever. Like you don't finish 84% in college basketball by accident. The way he's able to use that same flexibility he does to get blocks, to contort around the rim, use his length to get to get easy dunks. He does like the Mobley, like Bill Russell dunk where he just like goes straight up and down, like no flash, no tomahawk, just
Bill Russell dunk.
its efficiency. That is a PD Webb trademark. He is like an efficient, mean dunker, not in the highlight way, but in the will score 2 points no matter what kind of way. Like you said, has some nice touch on hook shots. Is he going to be like a big volume post guy in the league? I would assume, but can definitely like score from 7 to 10 feet when he needs to. Has nice touch with both hands, and then the shot, like it's like he's improved so much on offense in the last couple years. Like as a junior in high schools, I think I started watching him seriously like in his junior year. Like he basically did nothing on offense. Like he hit the occasional spot up three, would get layups and dunks, and like that was about it. But like now he's legitimately shooting threes like off of movement. Like multiple games, he will like come off of DHOs and pin downs and take threes like off of movement, which is unbelievable for someone of his size. Like you said, the transition threes is really cool. Just to watch that, like the guy will secure the block, go the length of the court, and pull up for three. I mean, like, is it like a little bit of a gimmick? Maybe, but like it really opens up. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if that'll be an NBA thing, but it
yeah,
is cool.
like the fact that it's a possibility is nice to see, and it certainly hints at potential shooting development in the future. Like if someone's so comfortable with it, objectively pretty difficult shot type at this young age, then that's going to be really good. I'm interested most to track where like his passing and like connective play goes, because I think he is a better passer than he got to show at Gonzaga. Is like he didn't really seem to just be asked. He didn't really seem to be asked to pass very much. Like I think with Chet, like I didn't really see him like miss a ton of reads, rather just not really be in a position to make a lot of reads. Like he did like high-low passing, like when he'd stand at like the 3-point line or the elbow and feed Drew Timmy, and he's really good at those. A couple maybe simple like elbow passes, but nothing crazy. And then,
so my exact note is not a great passer besides entry passes.
Yeah, so that's his
exactly what you said.
Basically all he does at Gonzaga. I definitely think, especially in FIBA this past summer, he had some really impressive like live dribble on the move passing. And I certainly don't think Chet is a great passer, and I also don't think he needs to be. Like I think it's going to be like, can you trust him to like run a dribble handoff and make the right decision, or like catch the ball on the short roll or at 20 feet or 17 feet and take a dribble or two and make the right decision. Nothing crazy, like nothing groundbreaking. Like I think when you like, there were a lot, like Chet had a lot of usage this year where like he'd get like pretty like kind of ISOs on the perimeter, and he'd have a lot of trouble when people pressured his handle. And again, like that's just not really a fair ask for your like giant 7-foot center. So those aren't really the concerning moments to me, but like, can he have a tight enough handle to dribble and dribble handoffs and pick and rolls and little elbow post ups and whatever actions the Pacers or any other team wants to run for him. Just like the simple stuff like that is what I think is most important to track for his development. And like, I don't think it's that crazy of an ask, like to think he's going to improve at those very simple, pretty simple basketball plays. So.
Hey guys, let's take a short little break here. Talk about the good folks over at BetOnline, the number one source for all of your sports betting stats and information. You can find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season, over at betonline.net. They are your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more on the NBA playoff front. Coming in hot. Utah favored by 1 in Game 6 over Dallas. That's going to be fascinating. Toronto slightly not favored as the Sixers try to close them out on these Friday games. Going to be a fascinating slate. You can see it all over at betonline.net. Head over to that website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action over at betonline.net. BetOnline is where the game starts. Timmy sort of makes it hard for me to perfectly evaluate his passing and decision making, because he didn't screen all that much. He did not screen. I don't want to say like they never had Chet as a screener. You can find him.
Yeah, they used him as more of like a spacey 4 on offense.
So I agree with you that like a big. I'm kind of transitioning to negatives here. The big thing that makes me a little afraid of Chet, besides, I mean, he's like, again, insane defensive prospect. And I want to get the exact numbers, by the way. Ben said it last segment. Let me give you some raw numbers. 78 for 89 inside 4 feet. That is insane. Like,
Yeah,
obviously an elite
that's
prospect,
unbelievable.
despite what I'm about to say. But, yeah, decision making in the role or in the short role, like very little evidence that he's going to start, at least with any sort of skill there. Could he do it? Yeah, he's developed quite a bit since coming from Minnesota. But not a lot there, and that's something that is interesting to me is the way the game is played now. Like pick and rolls are like almost every possession to some extent. Like you got to have something, and he's got 2 dribble moves to score. So I think he can go towards the basket and do well. He can shoot, so maybe he can pop, and that variation can make him credible. But without any sort of pass on a short roll or being able to kick out from the paint really well, I do worry a little bit about his effectiveness in pick and roll. Now, it's wild to me that he's so good at entry passes. Like the touch on those passes were always really good, and Timmy again was a factor in making all this a little confusing. But I haven't seen enough passing to make me think that he'll be good at those decisions. But he reads the game so well defensively that I think the reads will come on offense. So I'm curious if he'll ever actually like his brain will catch up to his muscles on those sort of. There's probably a better way to describe what I'm saying, but
I know what you
on
mean,
those
yes.
sort of plays.
I think like the thing with Chet is like the reads you need him to make are like far from super complex. Like because Chet is going to bring so much value on defense in transition, cleaning up around the basket. Like you don't need him to be a crazy good passer or like crazy great decision maker for him to make, for him to be super valuable. Obviously, I think early in his career, teams are probably going to like force him. Like I could definitely see teams forcing him to be like a passing creator from the mid post, where they maybe they're running him off the line on closeouts, or they're not letting him get the spot up, or maybe even the off movement threes. And I think once he's right at the basket, it's going to be easy money for him, probably right away. But is he going to be able to get to the basket in those 10 to 15 feet areas when defenses pressure his handle? Around the elbow on dribble handoffs and on pick and rolls when he gets the ball. Like, is he going to be able to not only make the right decision, but like have the tools to be able to execute that decision? Like, it doesn't really matter if you can see the right pass if you can't get the ball there, if you lose your handle, or if you don't aren't able to make that pass with enough quickness or like the right hand. So those are I totally agree with you that those are like some real offensive concerns with Chet when you're talking about his complementary role. That I think is definitely going to be the thing to monitor. But again, as we've kind of said, he's an amazing prospect, and none of these issues are like so debilitating or like so concerning that you're not going to like take him very high. Like these aren't huge red flags. These are just like, okay, these are development pieces his future team is going to need to monitor, and depending on what system he lands in, depending on what situation he falls in. And I think Chet is like pretty offensive role versatile. Like he's not going to require like a lot of investment offensively to make an impact, which is nice because I think a lot of big prospects in the past, especially like I think of someone like James Wiseman, who obviously is like not the level of prospect of Chet, but is someone who like we've seen doesn't really work in the confines of an offensive system so far and needs this kind of specific development. But because Chet is someone who is always going to be a spacer, I think, as we mentioned, like the shot is going to be good, not amazing, I don't think. But for a guy who's that tall, he's going to hit spot up threes, maybe every once in a while. He's going to be a great cutter and finisher around the basket. So he's not going to be someone you can't play on offense. Like he's not going to be unplayably bad, which for rookies I think is important.
You know what's interesting too? I just thought of this. I did not prep this in notes. So the Cavaliers did well this season with Mobley, who same assists per 40 at USC that Chet just had at Gonzaga. Is they would get Mobley the ball at the elbow, and because the NBA spacing was good and they ran a lot of pretty interesting, Spain stuff and pick and roll stuff, he actually was able to throw lob entry passes from the elbow to Jared Allen. And those plays were really successful for Cleveland, right? So I think that's something that in theory Chet could do, but I just randomly thought of that.
I will say like prospect Mobley was like, at least to me, like a very superior passer than Chet.
Oh yeah. Decision making in general. Yeah,
yes.
Much better.
And his team was also just like pretty rough. Like whereas
that's true.
I mean, I don't think this year's Gonzaga was perfect by any means. Like it wasn't last year's Gonzaga with Suggs and Kispert and them, but like, I think it was a pretty good spot. But yeah, I definitely like would love to see, especially if they keep, Miles seems to be ever present, and Isaiah Jackson is showing some interesting stuff.
We'll get to the Pacers fit. I have lots of
But,
stuff to say.
like, I think that could be. I definitely think there could be some cool like big to big developments there with the entry passes, with maybe even some like elbow get pick and rolls with Chet if you trust him enough as a ball handler, and some garbage time or whatever situations to test that out. But yeah, I suppose we'll get to that. But
we will get to the Pacers. Don't you worry. Because as someone who just dealt with a half decade of this center or that center, we have to talk about the Pacers part.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. Before we do that, we got to do the thing. We got to do the Chet thing. Chet Holmgren's skinny, Ben. I don't know if you noticed. Some people really don't like that about him as a prospect. Now, to those people, first of all, I would like you to Google the following phrases for me. 1, Joel Embiid, Kansas. 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo, draft. 3, Anthony Davis, Kentucky. 4, Evan Mobley, USC. Did I miss any? Did I miss any good ones?
Probably, but
Kevin Durant, Texas. I me't that one's a little different, but
yeah,
so yeah, I get that the skinny thing isn't like a positive. It's you would like him to have more muscle definition. It also doesn't mean anything.
I just Googled Anthony Davis myself. I did not realize he was that thin. Wow.
Yeah, I have a great picture of Embiid, like his first game at Kansas, like penciled in arms, right? Like, and he is huge now. He's enormous, right? Like, could it mean something? Maybe. I mean, Kevin Durant's never been like jacked, but he's still been amazing. It does matter. Like, it is a negative for him. We talked about he gets pushed around a little bit, and one of my biggest other negative notes for him is he is a little turnover prone, and you mentioned this when he gets knocked off his spot on the perimeter, especially, but sometimes in the lane too. He doesn't have a lot more time to assess his options because he's a little weaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's just like knocked off his balance, knocked off his spots on both ends.
Right.
Like on defense, I think like again, as we mentioned, like the getting around screens and working through like seals in the paint. But I will say to Chet's defense, like he's definitely like functionally stronger than his frame. Like there was a play earlier in the season, I don't remember what team it was against, where like a guard drove straight into him, like drove him back like 5 feet. And instead of fouling or flailing, he just shortly hopped back and blocked the ball with his length. Like he's so good at, knowing his weaknesses, knowing his level of strength, not trying to, fight and push and overcommit to defenders, but just doing a little hop back when guys get into his chest and knowing and trusting his length and timing to recover. And obviously in the NBA, when the athletes get stronger and bigger and faster, it's not going to work as well as it did, immediately in college. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's so much skinnier than any of these, or like maybe like not even raw size. He's not evidently weaker on tape than any of these guys.
Right. That's kind of what I don't get about it. Like, there are moments where I'm like, oh man, if he was a little stronger, he'd have succeeded there. I feel that about a lot of prospects, though. It's not like
many prospects are very skinny. Like most teenagers.
I wish people who thought that could see me at 18. I'm skinnier I was way skinnier than I am now. Or is he 19? Whatever. That age.
Yes, like there have been not very many prospects who have totally failed because of their lack of strength or inability to develop strength. Like it happens, but like it's not as common as people may assume.
Yeah.
Like especially for the really, really good ones. Like,
and I don't want to spin away from it and be like, it's nothing to me. Like I don't want to do that, because I do think he is skinnier than a lot of even the guys that I just said Google these phrases. Like he is thin. And it could end up being a problem. I will not ignore that. And that, again, will be a factor in my final ranking for him. And especially with the turnovers. And something else is when he drives at a guy, he can still shoot over him and score. But sometimes he'll run into a dude and it's just like drives over. Like there is no other thing he can do because he just gets like a wall, right? And so
I think,
there are factors of the skinniness that will matter. But I don't it's not a huge ding for me because one, obviously he'll get stronger. He's a teenager. And two, I've seen this story a million times work out for the player. So it's not like it's weird that it's obviously negative, but it's also not a thing for me.
Miles Turner was extremely skinny.
Yeah.
As was Jarrett Allen, who is now quite good. I think Chet, like when people think about like athletic development, it's not just going to be the strength. It's going to be like, can he get more flexible? So if he gets walled off on drives, he can get his shoulder around someone or get a different way around? And is he going to get better in terms of his balance? So like we've said, like it's an issue, but like one more point in like Chet's favor is like he is just like a mean dude. Like he is wired to kill. Like he's kind of always been this way. Like he is not afraid of contact and he plays physical on both ends. Like he's never been afraid to take contact or to initiate contact despite his frame to get into much bigger dudes on either end, which I love and like to see in a prospect. It just shows like a willingness to fight and a willingness to get dirty and knowing not only knowing their limitations but knowing how to work around and through them. So again, encouraging for Chet. The size is especially early career potentially an issue, but ultimately not something that we think should, knock him out of the top 1 or 2.
One more break here, guys, to talk about the good folks over at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of vehicles, it is impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why go in there and endure all the pointless and intimidating questioning and look around the store for the part you need? They never have it. They got to order it. They just get it behind the counter. You got to go back and get it. They only get the brand their warehouse carries. It's a huge pain. It's a stupid process. You have a computer with access to rockauto.com instead, and you can save time and money by doing it that way. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts at a car dealership when you can get it at rockauto.com, a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years for much cheaper. Their prices are always reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, new carpet. You need it, they got it. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. I forgot how skinny Miles Turner was at Texas. You made me Google it, and I forgot he was one of the dorks who wore the short sleeve shirt under the jersey. Even if it was the tight one, there was probably a name for it.
And Miles also had like aside from the strength getting better, like it was like third year summer, he had like a huge flexibility improvement as well. Where
Right.
like his agility and ability to like move laterally, change directions, to like attack closeouts, like got so much better over that. I think it was like his third or fourth season. Like I don't recall exactly, but it was the one summer where he posted all the yoga pictures, and it actually ended up like being
I forgot about
like
that.
it actually ended up being a significant difference because like
Get
he was more
Chet
flexible.
in the yoga studio with the wasps. Do you remember that? Miles Turner did yoga with wasps. That's the most crazy man thing I've ever heard.
No, Chet really should get on the yoga grind because watch Miles. Miles. Some of what makes Miles so great nowadays, like beyond his incredible rim protection, his ability to be agile and to change directions on the perimeter and to attack closeouts on when he's aggressive enough with those touches. And I think those are all like attainable athletic goals for Chet, with the right kind of training. And obviously I'm no biomechanics or like strength development expert, but I've seen a fair bit of it, and a fair bit of it go well in situations. And like what all we're trying to say is like it's far from hopeless for Chet. Like, this is not an issue. Like those Miles Turner yoga summit was interesting. I remember that.
Those were the days. Every summer, one Pacer did a crazy body transformation. Speaking of the Pacers, let's talk about Chet with the Pacers. Now, again, I usually hate this stuff because NBA teams change so much, like on a 3 or 5 year timeline, that sometimes it doesn't matter, especially the Pacers who don't typically draft this high. But now they have a guy who looks like he's going to be pretty good in Chris Duarte. That guy looks like he's going to be awesome in Tyrese Halliburton, who they can't have for 5 years, right? Like they have core pieces in place that make a little sense to have these sort of discussions now in a way that in past draft
pretty
doesn't
unique situation for the Pacers. Honestly, in the last like decade, really, it feels like it's been a long time since they've had like a stable-ish young core and a top pick. Like
You know what I would love to watch is a Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Jackson front court on defense. That would be insane. That would be really great. And then the something for Chet, and I make my big boards with the Pacers not in mind at all. I will make a separate one for the Pacers. Chet will not be number one on the Pacers one because I don't love two things. Offensively, Halliburton is speed, go, go, go. And I don't know if Chet's going to be like awesome in that environment when he doesn't have the ball all the time. And two, this is selfish. I do not want to have to do the Isaiah Jackson, Chet Holmgren, Goga Batadze, Miles Turner dance like I did with Turner and Sabonis for years. I got so sick of it.
Yeah,
So
trust me.
I
I
don't want to do those
understand.
debates again.
I understand. Absolutely.
What do you think of the Hallie stuff, though? Is that crazy? Like Gonzaga is a slow team by nature. Let me stop. College basketball is slow by nature, and
Yes, absolutely.
Halliburton is so speedy with the ball and can make the perfect decisions on the fly. Not always, but most of the time. And I don't think they're a bad fit. I mostly don't think Chet's a bad fit with anyone because he can play 4 or 5 and stretch out. But I don't love that fit necessarily. Is that weird? Do I not? It's kind of I'm kind of inserting my gut here,
I
which
don't
is
really
bad.
I don't think it really stands out in either a positive or like a super positive or negative way to me. As we've kind of mentioned before, like Chet is pretty role versatile. Where I think Hallie is going to be able to get a lot out of Chet right away because, like you said, he goes so fast. He's able to create advantages now, which is wild, and make great passes off of those, and open up space and draw the defense, which is just amazing. Like he has certainly become quite revolutionary for the Pacers. And I think he's going to be someone who is going to be able to get Chet the ball in the right spots, going to
I
be
agree
able
with
to
that.
make it so he doesn't have to work so hard early to get his shots in the paint or on the perimeter. I think with Hallie, ideally, I'd like a big who's like a bit better of a lob threat, and that's kind of the only real fit issue that I see with Chet. Where I think like once you have Chet catching on the block, maybe he has a second to turn and contort and adjust and read the defense. He's going to be an awesome finisher of offensive rebounds, dunker spots, maybe like lay downs. It's going to be fantastic. But especially early in his career, while he still has this stiffness in his in his lower torso and his upper body that in his hips, that maybe he's not going to be someone who's really dynamic rolling and in apex high pointing lobs, and that is somewhere that Halliburton like hasn't really had in like a long time, like at least since like FIBA with that like ridiculous team that Hallie played on in a couple summers ago, and I think that's kind of your ideal fit with Hallie as a big. But again, it's not like a bad fit. Like it's not something I'd be concerned about, and
That's fair.
it certainly wouldn't be a reason I wouldn't take Chet if like he was clearly the best guy on the board.
I agree with that too.
Let's say like they're picking 3 and somehow he falls. Like I'm not passing on Chet because of any concerns with Hallie. But I can definitely see where you'd be coming from with some trepidation there.
I want tape of like 15 Chet possessions where he catches and immediately pitches or something like that, or immediately sets a screen. Again, the decision making quickly was not something he had to do very often. And I think that would be very helpful to know. And
Yeah.
he could grow into that skill for sure with a guy like Halliburton, because the other side of the floor, he'll fit with any team. Any of the 30 teams, Chet Holmgren on defense, no problem. Plug him in. Great. You're done. You did it. You have a good fit. So I have no concerns there. And that means he'd at least, at worst, be like an above average fit with the Pacers.
Quickly, I'm gonna very quickly tangent if that's okay. I mentioned
no. Yes, go ahead.
that ridiculous FIBA team. I'm just gonna read you that roster, and for anyone who isn't aware of who Tyrese Halliburton played with,
What ages were they in this? Like 16, 17?
this was U19.
Okay.
So Hallie would have been 18 at this point, I think. This was the summer after his freshman year of college. I'm going to read you this, like some names on this USA roster. So Kyra Lewis, who is injured, has been injured. Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Zaire Williams, Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley were all on that team.
They all made the NBA, every single one.
And none of them won. And none of them won tournament MVP. The tournament MVP of that tournament was Reggie Perry.
Hey, former Pacer for one game.
I'm honestly not even sure where he is now, but
Portland.
Is he in Portland? Oh,
he finished the season with Portland, but
I do not follow
there
as close as I used to. But
wow,
yeah, so Hallie certainly would. I'm excited to see him playing with real awesome bigs, because obviously, like in Sacramento, Rashawn is a pretty good offensive player, but is not really, I'd say, someone certainly like Hallie proof in terms of what you want there. So I'd certainly be excited to see like a top big on the Pacers and see what Hallie can do with them.
Yeah, again, I think the Chet fit on defense is perfect. I think his fit with Halliburton is still good. Like I don't think I'll knock him down more than maybe one spot on my Pacers centric board if I do it all. I think of Banchero when I talk about this, by the way, because Paolo's a fantastic fit with the Pacers. But yeah, there's nothing like strongly negative. I wish there was, again, a few really quick decision plays, especially in pitches. And then we know the PNR stuff. We talked about that last segment where, I don't necessarily know how much that passing will develop. And if they want Hallie to be on the ball more often, that's a good thing because Chet doesn't need it so much to be super impactful.
It's generally a good thing. I think when like our big knocks we coming back to, we're like, well, this is probably an issue. I want to see a little
but
more.
Maybe not. Yeah. Our tone matters a lot here, doesn't it? So yeah, it's still good, I think. I just the selfish part of me is gonna, when I get tweets in 3 years of like, oh, they got to bench Isaiah Jackson, so Chet Holmgren can be the 5 and they can have a small ball 4 in the game, and I can just be like, oh my god,
just look what the Cavs do. We'll play Chet at the 2. It's all gonna be
the Lowry marketing role for Chet Holmgren. That would be awful. the Cavs doing all that the year the Pacers finally gave up is so poetic. It's so unbelievably poetic.
It's kind of insulting if we're being real.
JV Bickerstaff said, F you and your failing 2 big man combo. This is easy.
Like Nate and Frank and Rick have been trying this for a decade, and we're just going to do it game 1. And
it's so bizarre. Like, I get that marketing can really shoot so you can play the 3, but like, it's crazy that Mobley came in as a rookie and they figured that out like immediately. They're like, yeah, we can do it.
It's ridiculous. That team is awesome. And
I'm big into the Cavs.
It's sad that they're in the Pacers division, I guess, but like it's going to be a fun, hopefully rivalry to watch over the next maybe decade or so.
Patrick Williams doesn't turn in anything, the Pacers will be very happy because otherwise their division would have had Chicago, who's finally good again, Giannis, Cade, and Mobley for years. That's awful. That's as bad.
Yeah, good thing the NBA isn't like the NFL with divisions. So.
Yeah, where you play like 12% of your schedule against the team in your division. My goodness.
And like you can't make the playoffs if like 2 other great teams in the division make the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, they're going to be playing against these studs for forever, which is why this draft is so important. The Pacers need to be keeping up with these teams. The ascent is coming. It's a weird time in the NBA because, like, I guess Portland gave up midseason, but they were trying to be good. Like, all but maybe 4 teams when the season started were like, yeah, we can make the playoffs. And that's so rare that it's that many. And so now, if you're the Pacers and you're kind of going down for a little bit, this draft is so important. And that's why nailing the minutia with a guy like Chet, who is kind of polarizing, which is weird because most mocks have him. Most guys who study this stuff are like, yeah, obviously top 2, top 3. And then other people are like, no, I don't see it. I'm like, do you not trust these people? But whatever. He is going to be an interesting prospect in this draft, and the Pacers situation will be fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, just like this. It's just like the Stephen A's and like the March Madness commentators who have never seen him of the world. They're like, this guy can't play center in the NBA, and it's just like, and those people have lots of voice, and people are like, oh yeah, this guy can't play center in the NBA, and then they did the same thing with Mobley last year, like, and then we see how that worked out.
Yeah, the takes are dumb. I think Chet's going to be really good, and as a best player available fan, I think he'll end up number 1 on my board as of now. But I will end up watching a lot more Duke than I have. I've done a lot of Banchero focus and AJ Griffin stuff. I need to do more Mark Williams. That is the dynamic one for me with those guys at the top.
I think the Pacers are going to draft Chet Williams. Are going to draft Chet, and then
Chet and Mark.
They're going to draft Chet, and they're going to trade for Mark, and then they're going to play. Then they're going to play Chet, Mark Williams, Isaiah Miles, and Goga, and with honorary center Terry Taylor as their 6th man. And
the funniest thing to me now that we're at the end of this is that Terry Taylor, because Basketball Reference just sorts by height for your position in their lineups, they're like, yeah, he played 33% of his minutes at the 2. I'm like, no, he didn't. I get why that happened on your end, guys, but no, he didn't. He did not play shooting guard this season.
Terry Taylor is awesome though. So
he is. Talked about him twice, I think, on the podcast this week. Ben, thank you for the time. I usually have people plug their Twitter here. Not a good time for you to do that. So
I think I'll probably actually be back on Twitter by the time this goes live.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't really have much to plug these days.
Draft musings on Twitter.
Every once in a while, I make little YouTube videos nowadays that are more just like notebooks for my own thing that people like to watch for some reason. So I mean those will all be on my Twitter. So that's about it. I don't have much to plug anymore.
You can follow the show at Locked On Pacers and me at T East NBA. Thank you guys a ton for listening. Tomorrow we'll be back reviewing player seasons. I think the player group we're going to do is backup guards, but TBD. Maybe I'll do
Exciting.
a different one. Yes, there are actually some exciting ones in this crew for the Pacers tomorrow. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you then.